Hi everyone, Simon Briggs from SUSE, wearing a lot of livery here so you can recognise me. To introduce myself, work as the EMEA Cloud Strategist. It's a very grandiose title, so I'm a bit embarrassed about it. The reality is I work with the sales teams as a technologist and other sales engineers in the SUSE business to educate them around the cloud technologies we have and where we work in the cloud, be that public cloud, which is a very important part of our business. And actually the interesting question earlier today in the keynotes, you know, how does a public cloud sit? I think the reality is the answer that was given. People are going to consume either way. And in my mind, how I evangelize what the cloud revolution is going to do, the thing that will dictate what's being used to deliver your technology will be the service. It won't be the architecture underneath. So it shouldn't matter in the long run. But we're not there yet. We're at this moment in time. And at this moment in the time, a lot of what I do in the business is sell and help sell the technology stack we've got around OpenStack. That's called SUSE OpenStack Cloud. So sometimes I use the acronym SOC because it's not quite so long. The marketeers hate that, but I am a technologist at heart. So if you do see SOC in any of my presentations, that's a cheeky plug for the one later today where you'll find out some technical information about integrating VMware. Then read SUSE OpenStack Cloud because I get told off when I use it. So what's our messaging? This is a business session. If you are after detail about technology, then speak to me later or you've got a chance to wander out in front of the camera. But it is a business session, so I'm going to try and impart to you SUSE's thinking about why organisations will want to use OpenStack, talk to you about why we're a good fit for certain organisations as a partner to go forward with their journey into OpenStack, and illustrate why we think the OpenStack requirement is moving towards us. And the reason why OpenStack is moving towards us is something that was talked about by Gartner at the Austin Summit. So if anyone was there, you might have gone through the horror process of listening to them present the bimodal model around cloud usage. And there was a sharp intake of breath and everyone was like, go away, Gartner, you're overpaid. But actually, as a business, we've kind of sensed that for a while. There's two types of IT service provision. There's the service provision where the traditional modes of delivery have always made sense. And then there's the types of IT where actually we need to do something different. And the reason that someone was asking earlier today in the keynotes, why would I want this? You know, what is OpenStack? What's it going to do to me? And keywords came out, one of them, scale. Okay? Certain workloads in your business are quite static. They won't need to balloon rapidly at any one point in time. But more and more as organisations, we're looking towards delivering services out to our customers because whatever kind of organisation you are, if you're delivering a service, it is a customer that uses that service or else you're wasting your time. Okay? That service is going to have to get more flexible. It's going to have to get more dynamic. It's going to be able to burst and it's going to be able to serve the expectations of your customer base. And that's what Alan Clark talked about. Our expectations change all the time. Every day we change. Culturally we change every day. We're humans. We develop, we adapt, we use. And to be able to service all that, you're going to need to be able to deliver in a cloud. But if I talk about bimodal, that kind of says there's going to be two islands of IT delivery. And that doesn't make sense. Haven't we been working as IT professionals to try and keep away from more and more silos? Isn't part of the message of cloud, let's burn the silos? Well, actually it is. And that means that some of your traditional workloads will be good candidates for moving across into a cloud-type delivery method, even if you've always looked at them as what the OpenStack community like to perceive as pets. Okay? Is everyone happy with cattle and pets as an analogy, or not happy about it because it's quite a rough one, but the idea that if it's really critical to your business, it gets a name, you feed it, you water it, you keep it healthy. If it's not really critical to your business, you treat it as a commodity, and if it gets sick, you knock it over, you put another one there, okay? Well, the argument is that cloud is all about those cattle, the ones that can get sick and be killed, okay? But SUSE, in their expectation, what do? We're a business that sells reliability, serviceability. You know, we actually pay our mortgages by selling to customers service contracts. We don't sell them licenses or whatever. We actually sell service to them. So we're all about those traditional IT systems. So the people who work with us around cloud recognize they want this very dynamic cattle workload, but they also want to be able to get some benefit from the traditional workloads. So that's a very long-winded way of saying that not only is OpenStack a revolution, but you also should really be thinking about it as an evolution to software-defined data center. Okay, and there's some rationale why that should be the case. I should have tested that earlier. The fact of the matter is, unless you're lucky enough to work for Uber or one of these businesses born on the web, which I guess most of us don't, because most businesses have existed longer than a couple of years or 4 years or whatever, the chances are your organization has invested in a technology pool, okay? The last thing an organization wants to do is throw that in the skip completely and restart. First of all, it's going to disturb your customers, and secondly of all, it's a waste of money, okay? So it doesn't make sense. So lots of legacy, what might be termed legacy, traditional is a better word, I get told by the marketeers. Traditional things are in the business. And actually I'm talking later about VMware, and the VMware guy on the keynotes earlier did mention the fact that in many ways, VMware, PowerPoint into OpenOffice, very frustrating. Come on, boy. Right, I have a solution. Being a Linux guy.
Okay, you're going to run it in the cloud?
Sadly, no. What I'm going to do is do that. Right, so VMware. They admitted on stage today they're often seen as a legacy provider of infrastructural tools. It's virtualization, though. It was the buzzword, but it's not now. Yeah? But it's a key investment into organizations. Come to see me later and we'll talk about it in detail. Right, so the cloud is important, and it's important for the reasons that it was articulated on the stage today. What we want to do as organizations is move away from the lock-in where the physical hardware, the chips, the buses, those pieces of kit that you buy limits what you can do with your software above it and limits your ability to respond rapidly. And it's the operating system being abstracted by using, I really see cloud as the next step in the virtualization story, and it is only a step. We're on a journey. We're just going forward. But OpenStack's a really good tool for the next step, which is moving those virtualized boxes where we found virtualization was great, so we could utilize the hardware underneath much more, and we could be more efficient about it. But we still treated the machines as discrete machines, and it locked us into a certain kind of deployment methodology that limited our ability to work at scale and work in an agile way, okay? So OpenStack becomes a vehicle that then allows us to work with a more abstracted networking layer and a more abstracted storage layer that allows us then to start adopting much more progressive techniques, which earlier I was a bit disappointed, somebody didn't say on the stage, that without technologies like OpenStack and the cloud, society wouldn't be at the stage it is today, looking backwards. I was lucky enough to be in Paris at the OpenStack summit when it was there, and CERN came and spoke, and they spoke about Large Hadron Collider and the research that they've done. And the only reason they've been able to find the Higgs boson is because OpenStack allowed them to, at scale, be able to deliver the IT services they needed to do it. The Mars landers, They wouldn't be out there if people aren't utilising this technology. There's a reason why NASA were one of the original groups who were investing in this technology, okay? So it really is advancing us in the way, but we mustn't forget that actually other services need to go there. And importantly, I feel the pets cattle analogy is often a problem when I talk to people, because it takes away the fact that people don't concentrate on the fact that actually it might not be your operating system which is your pet anymore, but the service you're delivering is a pet, okay? So it was fine while everyone was experimenting with OpenStack to use free to use and not have support contracts and basically incur the risk themselves and make sure they're skilled, okay, and just rely on the open source community upstream. That was all great. But what we've seen happening in the last year and a half since Liberty came out as the upstream solution and SUSE brought out their version 6 of SUSE OpenStack Cloud, we've seen more and more organizations suddenly realize that they've been prototyping apps they've been delivering out to customer bases on these platforms, and suddenly there's $1 million attached to that platform. Now that money clarifies minds. It makes people realize resilience is required. It makes people realize that actually there's value in a vendor partnership, okay, moving forward. And more organizations are actually choosing a vendor in the OpenStack community than going themselves and forging their own solutions. So I'm becoming quite a busy man, okay, which is a good thing. My wife enjoys her life the more I'm out. At least you laughed. Obviously that was a joke. The chameleon, the ninja, we've got lots of those. I particularly like that one because somebody made up a mock-up of me with that. So it's, I like to think of myself as a ninja, but don't we all? So one of our chief engineers over in Asia made the point actually over to in a Chinese OpenStack event, and he actually said, don't get away from the fact that the platform needs to be stable, because actually being flexible with your service delivery but not having a stable platform, that's disaster. That's velocity but out of control, yeah? So SUSE has always been about control, and in OpenStack, to be honest, we weren't that fashionable for quite a while, but now we're starting to get fashionable because of this concept. It's becoming really important, okay? This was working fine, and now it's decided, oh, that's because these are marketing slides. These ones they build, they're horrible. Right, and really the way we've designed our technology is really to concentrate on allowing organizations to, first of all, utilize OpenStack quickly. A really good message was coming out on the stand from those people who experienced using OpenStack, going down this journey. They're saying, do it, okay? And the reason why I think that's important, I've spoke to loads of OpenStack consultants over time, and they all say it always goes wrong when you look at everything in your business and try and boil the ocean, as the Americans like to say, okay? Actually, you should think big. There's nothing wrong with thinking big and building strategies, but you should start small. You should bite what you can chew, do it well, learn from it, and then prototype that process back into what you're achieving and grow and grow and grow. I don't sell $1 million of SUSE OpenStack Cloud very often. It happens, but it doesn't happen very often, okay? Usually people buy little bits of it and they get more familiar, but I always know that they'll be coming back and buying more of it because they're expanding their clouds, they're getting used to their clouds, they're realizing more and more opportunity. It was spoke on the keynotes earlier today that actually you will realize there's things you couldn't do before you can now, and they're opportunities, and those start happening as well, okay? So we're all about allowing organizations to quickly install. We've got a very powerful installer. It was a key message we used to trump out a couple of years ago because in previous OpenStack summits before Tokyo, Intel run a little competition for all the vendors about how quick can you install. And they would have a series of gates that you needed to achieve in the time that you installed your OpenStack cloud to perform a certain task. And it was things like make sure there's HA in there on the control plane and whatever else. And if you did the gated task, you got a time bonus. So actually we kept doing it in negative time and we kept winning the competition. So everyone was like, yeah, we've got the greatest installer. Well, other people have caught up. It's the open source world. They've used the ideas we've used. We've given them back to the community. So yeah, we're still probably the fastest out there. Some people are using containers, which does make them quite rapid, but I still think our install process is pretty quick. But I don't really care how quick it is. I want to know how stable it is once I've actually installed it. Quick's all right, but actually if I'm building something fragile, it's not so good. So we move into the operational efficiency with that technology, and we move into our installer capabilities then allow us to manage our cloud very effectively. You can grow that cloud. I always make the joke, clouds don't grow. Clouds don't shrink. And everyone goes, what are you on about? Of course they shrink, they flex. They flex at a VM level or service level, but underneath they just get bigger. There was an IT organisation talking to us yesterday who said 1/3 of their data centre floor space will be dedicated to OpenStack in no time at all. Okay. They started with it 2 years ago. Okay. With that, you can accelerate your innovation. So we talked earlier with the keynotes from all the guys about the fact that often if organizations are thinking about using cloud as a DevOps type tool in a development world, it allows innovation. But what that kind of doesn't recognize that there's lots of services in your business which might be seen as traditional, might be seen as less dynamic, that will benefit from a cloud type deployment model. A really good example is one of our key customers who is here today. There's a really nice car out the front, wasn't there? A blue one? Don't know if anyone saw it. They're a big customer, and they were talking to me about what they do with the technology, and they said, we didn't expect this, but all of a sudden the networks teams rocked up and went, Mr. Central IT, we're here, you've got an OpenStack cloud. Yeah, we've got an OpenStack cloud. And they're like, we've got to roll out IPv6. We've got to do it quick. We're scared silly by that concept. Yeah? The risks incurred in doing that was starting to overpower them. They were starting to get really, really worried about that process. And they said, what would be great is being able to virtualize a load of the network kit, slam it in there, virtualize some services, and then test actually the stack to see if it will work fine with IPv6. And that's actually been a massive use case in the business. Okay? Now that's not going DevOpsy and designing your new app to go on my mobile phone here. That's actually quite a traditional use case, a change in the infrastructure beneath your services. But the advantages of this kind of technique permeate all the way down those technologies. Now, obviously, a slide without global maps with loads of buttons on wouldn't be allowable in a slide deck. We'll go past that. SUSE is a global organisation. Everyone probably is aware of who we are. We've worked in the OpenStack community for very long. What is important about what we do is we partner. We get open, okay? I challenge any organisation to have the partnerships that SUSE has. It's ridiculous. Mirantis is the most interesting. Our probably most competitive company in the OpenStack world. And the other day we announced a partnership with them, okay? So they're going to use SUSE Enterprise Server underneath their technology because they understand that SUSE Enterprise Servers are a fantastic, robust platform for their clouds moving forward. They've also, by doing that, recognized the fact that flaky clouds are not really very useful to people. Okay, so they're moving towards our way of thinking. Mirantis did used to deliver on community operating system and then just try and hack and make sure that it was enterprise ready. They've now recognized they're going to use a different technique, so they're coming towards us. We've got great SIs who work with us a lot. You may have heard there's been some announcements in the last week that have caught a lot of people's attention. We're a growing organisation. On the wider front, we are part of a wider group called Micro Focus. And there was a keynote that was talking about a technology stack on the stand today. And they've gone out as a company and said they're going to start using SUSE Linux wherever they can. So you might, if you're using Helium clouds, see SUSE technology coming in there. So it's just an illustration that we do fantastic tool lines and we help organizations by directly working with them. But you may well be consuming SUSE in a different way because we partner with all these people. Okay. The wider community of software vendors who have assured our technology. So what we have found is that clouds were great while people were using them in a DevOps mode and they were designing their own applications rapidly on top. But when people were thinking, right, well, I actually want to move this particular workload across from my traditional IT into my cloud, they wanted the independent software vendors tick that operating system was supported. Well, SUSE has the widest ISV catalogue of any operating system. So our cloud, by nature of just it bubbling up, is a supported platform for the largest amount of software in the market today. Okay. You can actually work with PaaS. Cloud Foundry is our choice for infrastructure as a service. You saw it mentioned a lot in the keynotes. We're in the foundation and we're working forward with them. We're part of the OpenNFV community. We are very serious about delivering value to customer bases with cloud because the infrastructure is only really the bottom part. It's how you consume it and deliver on top of it that is a solution that's going to help revolutionize the services that you're delivering. Okay? VMware, a big partner. So when I talk about VMware later this afternoon, I'm sure you're all intrigued to come along. I'll be talking about the partnership a little bit as well. Okay. We also provide a lot of flexibility in our products. So you may not realize it, but KVM is not the only show in town when it comes to virtualizing services. Obviously, everyone loves a bit of Docker. It's so trendy, it's got a beard on at the moment. But the fact of the matter is there's more out there. Firstly, KVM's a great open source hypervisor solution, but so's Zen. I promise you there's more people running Zen out there, because there's some very big companies running Zen, and SUSE fully supports Zen. So if you wanted that as a hypervisor, you can work with it. We have great partnerships, so Hyper-V, my God, Microsoft, they're actually there as well. VMware. And interestingly, ZVM. So SUSE's got a great relationship with IBM. We've been working on mainframe for many, many years. Actually, if you think about it and get away from your kind of like, oh God, it's dead technology, it's a mainframe mentality, it's kind of a cloud in a box anyway. It's got all its networking, storage, and compute power all in one place. So wouldn't it be great if you could actually consume that, if you had it available? I'm not advocating going out and buying mainframes. I'm not an IBM salesman. You're an IBM salesman. Hey, it works. If you've got a massive checkbook, it works. It's a solution in a box. It's very secure. It's very powerful. So bringing that in and being able to do it. Yeah, portable. There's a joke, isn't there? Don't trust a computer you can carry. That's the IBM view of the world. But no, we'll move away from that. And of course, Ironic actually is coming along in our next release. Just to underline this with everyone, SUSE OpenStack Cloud at the moment, it's version 6. It's Liberty-based. What we're doing is we've moved out to a year-long refresh cycle. Okay, so our life cycle's a year. We're missing the summer release of the upstream community. What that's allowed us to do is give more stability to our customers. 6 months was too aggressive. We were having problems. Customers were like, we're just never getting up to what we need to be at because 6 months too long. The knock-on of the 6 months is actually you can't deliver a very long supported lifespan post the refresh. So now we're at 3 years of total support for that version. And it will only get longer. We've moved to nearly 13 years support on the Linux platform. over time. But when you're working in open source, if things are fairly new, remember OpenStack, I mentioned it on the, it's 6. It's a baby. Okay, so whilst things are small, they develop, they grow really rapidly, and then they mature, and that growth level steadies out, and you can elongate life cycles. Well, we feel we've got, with Liberty release, definitely to that point. Okay, 7 is coming out in December timeframe, and there'll be a lot of announcements about that soon. I'll talk about it a bit in a while. We also provide flexibility with other elements. So everyone thinks hypervisor, but actually we've got all the integrations baked in our very flexible installer and management platform in a way that allows you to integrate with other hardware and vendor solutions in your infrastructure. Loads of the companies we work with, the type of companies we work with, want their storage arrays to become available as LUNs inside that cloud. Okay, so very early on we started working with the EMCs, the NetApps, people like that, to exploit their APIs within our OpenStack structure. It's a 2-click GUI type web front end to be able to deploy that. You obviously have to put in credentials for security, but apart from that, it's very rapid. Okay. You may have noticed a bit of a fanfare about our support of Ceph. So SUSE now have a product line around software-defined storage. Ceph is particularly strong when used in conjunction as an object store for a virtualization platform. Thank you. Because of that, we're seeing a lot of joint OpenStack and Ceph opportunities moving forward. If you haven't yet started exploring what Ceph could offer your organization, it's a really interesting technology, and just understanding it's out there is probably good for everyone. We do just the same around networking, so we're members of Open vSwitch, we can deliver those, but we also recognize there's some great partners out there. PlumGrid is one that's not on the list. Midacura, these guys have important networking capabilities, as does VMware. And if we were to preclude them or not allow you easy access to be able to utilize them, we wouldn't be doing you a service as customers in your businesses. The mantra in SUSE is allow you to make the decisions by giving you an easy platform to utilize them. We don't like telling you your baby's ugly. We also design our tools to be flexible. So this didn't get a lot of positive reaction when it was first brought to the Linux world. So SUSE recognized earlier than everybody else, essentially, that the IP stack in Linux was a little bit rigid when you start thinking about mass deployment on cloud scale. Okay? Essentially, it didn't have any state attached to it. So the ability to make decisions upon what to do with your networking stack in certain scenarios didn't really exist in the traditional model of networking with Linux. So we moved forward with a solution called Wicked. It's a completely open source project, of course, because that's what SUSE does. And what that's allowed us to do is build in and integrate with systemd. I know you may not be lovers, but it's getting more and more supporters in the community because it is allowing at scale, because state actually is really important. And we can talk about that offline with a beer if you want to beat me up for being a fan of it. But it integrates with it, and it allows us to be able to better manage the networking elements of the operating system underneath. Okay, so that's just an example of how we try and innovate through our code as well. Okay. The management of the platform means if you are interested in the technology, we can do things pretty rapidly. We're not the kind of organization that says, oh yes, it's brilliant, you want to look at our tools. So what we'll do is instigate a 6-month project, and we'll bring in this and we'll bring in that, and it all becomes very complicated. We can deliver very rapid proofs of value. Was that it, POV, earlier today? Rather than concepts. So we all know the concepts will work. Quoting somebody else. So we can come in and we can deliver the ability to stand up a small cloud for an organization. If you want to go to a trial and actually see it at scale and things like that, yeah, it's going to be a project, there's no doubt. You are virtualizing a data center. It's going to take some effort. But if you're really just trying to kick the tires, understand what it does, evaluate us against all the competition, then we can do that very rapidly. Key thing to think about, though, is we try and deliver highly available and flexible infrastructure. So don't be afraid of asking us to do things that other vendors might be a little bit fearful of treading towards. Okay? So the upgrade process from 6 to 7, I mentioned we'd elongated our support lifecycle. We're actually going to have a non-disruptive upgrade from 6 to 7. Finally, the time has come for OpenStack to be upgradable. I will caveat it though, you've got to be using our HA capability because we drop one side of the cluster into maintenance mode, keep the service running, upgrade. So it's not voodoo. We haven't invented some magic. We're not Harry Potter at SUSE. We just do technology quite well. Okay? Right, and we don't just drop it at the driveway. Okay, we have the partner infrastructure ecosystem, and we have our own services guys. We have our own ability to move forward with you as an organization, to give you the intelligence and skills and training and all the different parts that you'll need to make it your own and move towards OpenStack in your data centers and revolutionize your businesses at the end of the day. Okay, so that's a presentation. I'm Simon Briggs. I am speaking later with my colleague, Oran, who is able to speak Dutch, so that might be a bit better than me, being a bit rubbish at languages. We'll speak about VMware integration and the pitfalls that you might run into if you're interested in looking at it, what we've experienced as SUSE trying to do it for our customers. Okay. So thanks. Any questions?
What is your main differentiation between Red Hat and yourself, or SUSE?
We're open source company. I don't like to bitch. We do things differently. We're a very different organization. We can install our products really effectively, really quickly. Not everyone is able to do that in the industry. I'll point you to that. We're very open to partnerships. We're not building a red stack. You know, we're different. We have different approaches, but I don't really want to get into. We're open source at the end of the day, so even if I've got a better technology today, he's got it tomorrow, and vice versa. So, okay. Thank you.